when you look at Condon, I happen to be watching a couple of the games of Georgia in the regionals, and twice
Hmm.
Army
Hmm.
with a one out and a man on first in like the fifth or sixth inning walked him intentionally. It ended up coming back to bite them. They doubled in, and they Army had the lead when they did that in the sixth inning. Georgia ended up scoring a couple runs that inning. Then again against Georgia Tech in the championship game, ninth inning, and Georgia Tech was the
Hmm.
home team because they flip it at regionals.
Right.
One out, one on. They walked him in the ninth inning of a tie game.
Insane.
Is that the kind of hitter he's been this year?
No, no, it's terrible strategy. And I like a an angel gets its wings every time a hitter who's been intentionally walked comes around to score. It is the worst strategy. I see it in college baseball all the time. It's
Yeah.
lazy. It is sloppy. It is nearly always the wrong strategy. And look, Charlie Condon is the best player on Georgia's team. They don't stink though. Like I saw them against Tennessee put up, I think it was 27 runs in 2 days. Like they can hit.
Yeah.
They can't really pitch, but they're doing fine right now, obviously. But it's not the Charlie Condon show. Even if it was, that might not be great strategy, but it's really pretty dumb to do what you described, especially when he is a critical run, right?
Right.
Even if all he's doing is pushing with potential
Yeah.
tying or potential go ahead run 90 feet forward. It's so dumb. And
He's
it makes me happy when that intentional walk comes back to bite them.
he's batting second in the order, so you're bringing up the three hitter in their order, and it
Who you
did
would think was pretty good.
exactly. It did come back to bite.
Yeah.
Now they got out of the ninth. They ended up losing it in 10 innings, and
Yes.
Georgia advanced to the Super Regionals.
Georgia Tech, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, Georgia Tech, correct.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you look at Condon, between these two,
Mhm.
who do you? I mean, what's the separator in your mind? When I look at him, I don't see a guy like Condon in the Guardians system. I just don't.
No,
I
I
see a
don't either.
lot of
Um,
guys that look like Bazana, maybe not at that level, but they have
right.
so many. They have a second baseman, Jimenez, who he's young. He's young and he's a
Right.
platinum glover, and he's starting to
Yep.
hit better again.
So I have several thoughts on this. Um, First, to just answer the question most directly, Condon is my one and Bazana is my two. I have a ranking of the top 100 guys in the draft class. And obviously, the higher on the list, the more I'm giving consideration to who ranks. It's really like pairwise this guy or that guy, this guy or that guy. It's Condon. The only real question I have on Condon is, and I don't know how much this is an issue, but Condon in particular, and a lot of the Georgia hitters, they are mashing at home and they've been nowhere near the same on the road. Now, Georgia's not a great hitter's park historically. It just gives me a tiny bit of pause. Something weird going on here that I should be considering. However, if I'm grading out the tools, the athleticism, the bat speed, the running speed, the glove, the arm, all the raw power, it kind of blows Bazan out of the water. Bazan is a better pure hitter. And like I said, I think that gives him a higher probability. There's a higher floor. There's a much higher chance of Bazana not busting, of becoming, Condon has a better chance to become a star, a much better chance to become a star. Bazana has a somewhat better chance of just getting there at all, right? There's some chance here that Condon doesn't quite hit enough to get to all the other tools. I don't really think it's a big deal, but these are fine distinctions we're trying to discuss, and I'm sure they're trying to discuss. You don't want to whiff on the first pick. You don't want to say, well, we're going to save $500,000, but get a much worse player, right? You have to get that first pick right. And as you said, historically, they've never picked first. They've only picked second a couple of times. It's been forever. And they do have some deficiencies in the system. That said, I would probably only consider that last point. They don't have a Condon. They have some Bazana-ish guys, and they certainly have a type, right? Short, middle. If I could play second base, they would have drafted me. I'm 5'6". I'm right in their wheelhouse. But I wouldn't let that be anything except maybe the very last variable. Don't draft for need because often that will steer you away from the better player. And you can always find ways to fit in the better player. The Orioles are running into this now. They have one of the best players in the American League right now, Gunnar Henderson, who's a shortstop who everyone thought was probably going to move to third. I actually still think if you put him at third, you might have Brooks Robinson. He's really, really good over there. Maybe Scott Rowland would be a better comp. But turns out he's a pretty good big league shortstop. They're going to find a way to play Jackson Holiday
Yep.
somewhere. So you can always fit in the better player, particularly when they're athletic. And Condon's athletic and he is flexible. Whereas Bazana is he's pretty much stuck at second base. And he's fine, but with Condon, it could be center. It's probably right, but I would run him out at third and see what it looks like. I understand they have a third baseman, but just create more options for you. Maybe move him around. I even asked the kid, where do you want to play? What do you think is your best position? Give him a shot to play there for a little bit. And Cleveland is a club. They'll move some guys around too to try to create versatility and explore their options and recognize that. But I think to me that the argument to take Condon is more that he's the best player with the most upside rather than they have these particular needs they need to address.
When you look at him, is there a guy that and I know it's tough to do, is there a comp to Condon? I've seen Chris Bryant, I've seen Nick Castellanos. Is there anybody that comps to Charlie Condon in your mind?
He looks like Chris Bryant. Not his eyes. Chris Bryant has better eyes, but Chris, there was a body comp. Charlie Condon to me looks a bit more like Chris Bryant did as a freshman at USD versus Chris Bryant in his draft year. He's more athletic, he's a better runner, he's looser, he's more fluid. I loved Bryant. I thought Bryant was going to be. I saw Bryant in high school. I thought he was going to be a star. Um, Castellanos, probably not a good comp for me because Castellanos was just bat. It was all bat, and it was always going to be work to get him to play somewhere on the field. And he's not a very good right fielder. He's just not that athletic or that fast. Condon to me is a little bit. It's not. I'm not to say that he's unique, but it is an interesting skill set where it's 6'6". It's very lean, and I think he's going to stay that way. Like I don't see Charlie Condon bulking up to the point where you say, well, he can't play a skill position. He's got to go to right field because he's too big or he's slowed down. I don't think he's that type. It's funny because I'm old, and I watched him play a couple games at Tennessee, and I think this is like a little Dave Winfield-ish, right? Now Winfield, when he was a player, right, he was very lean,
Yep.
particularly when he was younger, right? Obviously, Winfield, as he got older, he got heavier. But where it was long strides and the swing could get long at the finish, but he was real short to the ball and had enough plate discipline and enough understanding. Like he could get to it where now I don't know if Winfield, I'm not old enough to remember if Winfield was what he looked like when he was 20 or so. I remember when he came to the Yankees when he was probably about 25-ish, I'm guessing. But that was the other one that came to mind. I hear the Bryant name all the time and I sort of get it, but I think it shortchanges Condon a little bit, maybe on the athleticism, whereas Bryant probably had just more pure raw power at the same age.